Imagine a room lit only by the flickering orange glow of a single torch. In the center of this room stands a great loom, its wooden frame reaching toward the shadows of the ceiling. A woman stands before it, her hands moving with a precision that speaks of decades of practice. But she is not weaving. She is carefully, systematically pulling a thread from the fabric. She is undoing the work of the day. For 3 years, this has been the rhythm of her life. By day, she creates a funeral pall for an aging father-in-law, satisfying the eyes of a world that demands progress, endings, and new beginnings. By night, she unweaves that same progress. This is the image Homer gives us of Penelope in the Odyssey, and it invites a question that reaches far beyond the walls of Ithaca. Why would a soul deliberately choose to exist in a state of eternal deferral? We are taught that the value of a work lies in its completion, that a story is defined by its ending. Yet here is a woman who finds her truth not in the finished shroud, but in the space between the stitch and the thread. She exists in a deliberate non-closure, a refusal to let the past die or the future arrive. It is a slow, quiet resistance against a reality that does not fit the heart's truth. There is a profound paradox in the act of unweaving. In the eyes of the suitors who crowd her halls, Penelope is a woman of craft, a weaver whose progress is measurable by the inch. They see the loom as a clock, counting down the time until she must choose a new husband and let the ghost of Ulysses vanish. But Penelope has discovered a way to stop time. By unpicking the stitches, she creates a loop where the linear progression of the world is suspended. The world demands a decision. It wants a wedding or a funeral. It wants the certainty of a finished reality. Penelope offers instead a process that never reaches its conclusion. This is not merely a stalling tactic or a clever trick played on unwanted men. It is the architecture of a specific internal space. To finish the shroud is to accept the death of Laertes, her father-in-law, and by extension, the death of her marriage. To leave it undone is to keep the possibility of the past alive. The contradiction lies in the fact that her faithfulness is expressed through destruction. She remains a loyal wife by being a failed weaver. She preserves her world by refusing to build the very thing the world expects of her. Homer places this struggle within a world of high stakes and rigid social duties. In the ancient Mediterranean, a woman's identity was often bound to her productivity and her place within the lineage of men. The shroud for Laertes was a public necessity. It was the garment that would transition a hero into the realm of the ancestors. To leave a hero without a shroud was a civic failure. Penelope acknowledges this, stating that she would not have her skill in needlework perish unrecorded. Yet she deliberately ensures that the record remains blank. She lived in a world where the 20 years of wandering endured by her husband, Ulysses, were mirrored by her own 20 years of waiting. While he faced monsters and tempests on the open sea, she faced the slow erosion of her identity within the stone walls of her home. The stakes were not just political, they were ontological. The suitors were not just seeking a queen, they were seeking to overwrite the memory of a man they believed was gone. Penelope's nightly unraveling was the only way to protect the sanctity of what was lost. This unweaving serves as a profound model of persistence. It challenges the modern obsession with achievement and the completion of journeys. We are often told that to find ourselves we must move forward, but Penelope suggests that sometimes to remain faithful to our core, we must learn how to undo. Each subpoint of her strategy reveals a deeper layer of human psychology. First, the shroud acts as a symbolic border. It is not just a cloth. It is the boundary between life and death, between the old regime and the new. By refusing to finish the border, she refuses to let the transition occur. She creates a state of betweenness where she is neither a widow nor a wife, but something else entirely, a keeper of a flickering flame. The skill in needlework, she mentions, is not about the beauty of the pattern, but about the mastery of the thread itself. The truth does not reside in the tapestry hanging on the wall for all to see. It resides in the hands that know how to take it apart. This leads us to a second insight. the value of the unrecorded. In a culture that prioritizes the final product, the act of unpicking by torchlight is an act of sovereign anonymity. No one sees the work being undone. It is a secret labor, a private dialogue between the heart and the silence of the night. It suggests that the most important parts of our lives might be the things we undo when the world is not watching. We might spend our days building a persona, a career, or a public narrative, only to spend our nights unraveling those same threads to see what lies beneath. Is the truth found in the progress we show the world, or is it found in the quiet refusal to reach a conclusion that feels like a betrayal? Penelope's resistance is a reminder that we are not obligated to accept a reality that does not harmonize with our internal landscape, even if the world calls our refusal madness. However, this resistance to movement finds its necessary contrast in the immovable center of the home. While Penelope unweaves the time that passes, Ulysses eventually returns to a foundation that has never moved. This is the secret of the olive tree bed, a marvelous curiosity built by Ulysses's own hands. He did not merely place a bed in a room. He bored a hole through a living olive tree and made it the center post of his marriage bed. This bed is the anchor to Penelope's loom. When Ulysses finally returns, changed by 20 years of violence and sea salt, recognition does not come through his face or his voice. It comes through the shared secret of this construction. Penelope tests him by suggesting the bed be moved, and his anger reveals the truth. There is no man living, however strong and in his prime, who could move it from its place. This is the core insight of their relationship. It is rooted in the earth, built into a living thing that exists beyond the light of day. This immovable bed complicates our understanding of Penelope's unweaving. It suggests that her refusal to finish the shroud was not a refusal of reality, but a way of staying anchored to the one thing that was fixed. Identity in the Homeric sense is both something crafted by human hands and something rooted in the soil. Ulysses' bed is inlaid with gold and silver, the decorations of a civilization, but its heart is a tree that still draws life from the ground. This raises a difficult question for the modern soul. What constitutes our own olive tree? In a life characterized by constant movement, by the detachment from place and the fluidity of digital identities, do we still possess a fixed point around which we have built our strong walls of stone? If we have nothing that is immovable, can we ever truly be known by another? True recognition, as seen between Ulysses and Penelope, requires a shared secret of construction, a knowledge of how the center post is bored and how the roots are intertwined. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of this myth is the realization that the loom and the bed are two halves of the same psychological truth. The loom represents the fluidity of time, the part of us that must constantly negotiate with change and loss. The bed represents the stability of the self, the part of us that refuses to move regardless of the tempests outside. To live only at the loom is to be lost in an endless cycle of undoing, never reaching a foundation. To live only in the bed is to be stagnant, rooted, but unable to engage with the world's demands. Penelope and Ulysses together represent a complete human experience, the one who wanders and the one who waits, both anchored by a secret that the world cannot see. Their story is not about a happy ending, but about the preservation of an internal sanctuary that the linear progression of the world cannot touch. This brings us to consider the parts of our own lives that we are unweaving in the dark. We all have shrouds we are expected to finish, roles we are expected to play, conclusions we are expected to reach. We might feel the pressure to marry whom we will and move on from the ghosts of our past. Yet there is a certain dignity in the refusal to let the story end prematurely. We might wonder, what is the skill in needlework that we are keeping unrecorded? Are we undoing our progress because the destination we are headed toward is one we never chose? There is a weight to the things that are undone, a specific kind of beauty in the work that never reaches the market. It is the labor of remaining faithful to a reality that hasn't arrived yet, or perhaps to a reality that has already passed, but refuses to leave the room. We must ask ourselves if we have lost the mechanism for true recognition. If our lives are built on the movable, on the temporary, and on the visible, what tokens do we have that are hidden from all others? In a world where everything is shared, the shared secret of construction becomes an endangered thing. We are often encouraged to be like Ulysses the wanderer, to seek new horizons and constant change. But we rarely discuss the immovable curiosity he left behind. Can two people ever really know each other if they haven't built something together that neither of them can move? And if the bed is moved, if the tree is cut, is the home still a home? Or is it just another stop on a journey that has no center? As the torch burns low in the room of the loom, we are left with the image of the thread being pulled. The shroud is thinner now than it was at sunset. The suitors sleep, dreaming of a wedding that will never happen, while Penelope works in the silence of the between. She is not a hero of action, but a hero of resistance. She teaches us that sometimes the only way to save the self is to refuse the ending. She stays in the space between the stitch and the thread, waiting for the one person who knows the secret of the bed. But we are left to wonder about the toll of this eternal deferral. Does the refusal to reach a conclusion eventually become its own kind of prison? Is the truth found in the persistence of the unweaving, or is it found in the moment the thread finally snaps? We are left with the weight of the undone work and the silence of the roots that grow beneath the floorboards, holding a secret that no man living could ever move.